Today, we're making a Korean-inspired pie with bulgogi, green onions, and caramelized onion sauce. We start with the marinade for the bulgogi. Mince 4 or 5 cloves of garlic and put them into a container. This is what we'll marinate our beef in. Next, we grate half a small onion into the container, and then peel a Korean pear and grate half of it into the marinade receptacle as well. Next, I added 3 tablespoons of Korean soy sauce and 1 tablespoon of Korean plum syrup, but I think you should actually double both of those amounts and also add a tablespoon of sugar, honey, or rice syrup. That's what I did with the leftovers, and it definitely knocked them up another notch. Finally, we cut our beef into bite-sized pieces and mix it into the marinade. I got this pre-sliced from H Mart specifically for making bulgogi. Let it marinate at least a few hours, but ideally overnight. Now let's make the caramelized onion sauce. This is an onion version of the caramelized vegetable sauce recipe from the Modernist Pizza book. The ingredients for this recipe are given in baker's percentages, with the onions as the 100%. For this batch, I have 3 small onions, totaling 550 grams. Dice them up and throw them in the Instant Pot. Second, we add 0.5% or 2.75 grams of baking soda, not baking powder. Baking soda is alkaline and will help break down the onions and make them jammy. Baking powder is not alkaline and won't help us out here. 1% or 5.5 grams of salt. Next, we add 15% or 83 grams of some kind of fat. I'm using a neutral vegetable oil, but you could also use olive oil, butter, or bacon grease. Really, any kind of fat. Mix everything up in the Instant Pot and then pressure cook on high for an hour. When it's done cooking, we blend it smooth, and you can add a little more water if it's too thick, or reduce it in a saucepan if it's too thin. I thought the consistency was perfect right out of the blender, so I left it as is. The final topping to prep is the green onion. Chop it up, dividing it into 2 groups, the thicker bottom white parts and the thinner upper green parts. Okay, let's make this pizza. This dough is 50% Trailblazer, which is a deliciously flavorful T85 flour with 14% protein from Cairn Spring Mills, 45% King Arthur bread flour, and 5% whole rye from Bob's Red Mill. It has 72% hydration, 10% levain, and 2.75% salt. I felt like mixing things up this time, so this is a lean dough, and I didn't add any oil. It had a 2-day cold ferment in the fridge and has since been tempering on the kitchen counter for about 10 hours. First, we lay down a very thin layer of the onion sauce, just to ensure that we don't have any dry, sauceless bites. Next, we add our low moisture whole milk mozzarella. This is Grande brand. I've taken to cubing the mozzarella, which makes it melt a little slower and helps delay oil separation. Next, we sprinkle on the heartier pieces of green onion from that bottom half. And then we disperse dollops of the onion sauce all around the pie. And finally, nestle the bulgogi in between the sauce dollops. I'm adding it raw since it's thin enough to cook through during the bake. Give the pie a little shake to make sure it will launch without problem, and into the oven it goes. The oven had been preheating with the flame on high, and I turned it down to low for the actual bake. The stone temperature ended up being a little bit hot, and the bottom baked faster than I intended it to, so I started leaving my peel underneath the pie to keep it up off the stone. Altogether, this was just over a 7-minute bake. Post-bake, I added the thinner upper half bits of the green onion and a small drizzle of toasted sesame oil. Pretty good bake on the top and the sides, but a little too dark on the undercarriage because of that top versus bottom heat imbalance we talked about earlier. We got a decent interior crumb. Putting the bulgogi on raw was definitely the right choice. Par cooking would have led to it being way overdone. This pizza was so rich and savory. The sauce almost tasted like it had beef stock in it. I was getting a bit of a French dip sandwich with jus vibe from this pizza, which wasn't really what I was expecting, but kind of makes sense in retrospect. As I mentioned earlier, next time I'll add more soy sauce and more sweetness to the bulgogi marinade. I think that would bring it back towards a more Korean flavor profile. But this sauce was really fun, delicious, and super easy to make. I'm excited to try it with other vegetables like carrot or zucchini in the future.